The United Kingdom is facing one of the most dramatic weather warnings of the year. The world's most advanced climate models are showing something unexpected in the middle of spring: a powerful mass of Arctic air moving southward toward the British Isles, capable of triggering snowfall, widespread frost, and temperatures that could drop several degrees below zero in more than a dozen cities. British media have begun talking about a snow bomb, a technical term describing the rapid deepening of a low-pressure system with explosive weather consequences, and experts are divided between alarm and caution. What is clear is that the coming weeks could bring unusual conditions. For a time of year that normally promises longer days, milder temperatures, and the definitive start of spring. Instead, parts of the UK could be blanketed in white, with biting winds arriving directly from the Arctic. To understand what's happening, you need to understand how a snow bomb works. The technical meteorological term is explosive cyclogenesis, and it describes the process by which a low-pressure system intensifies at an extraordinarily rapid rate over a 24-hour period. When this occurs in combination with Arctic air descending from the northernmost latitudes of the planet, the result can be severe winter weather conditions that arrive unexpectedly and affect areas that don't normally anticipate that kind of climate. The Arctic, in recent decades, has been warming at a rate 2 to 3 times faster than the global average, generating changes in the polar vortex, a high-altitude air current that normally keeps cold air confined near the North Pole. When that vortex weakens or becomes distorted, extremely cold air masses can escape toward lower latitudes, including northwestern Europe and the British Isles. Data from X-Charts, one of the leading private meteorological modeling services tracking climate patterns over the North Atlantic, suggests that a significant cold snap could reach the northernmost parts of the UK toward the end of April 2026. The maps show temperatures that could fall below 0 degrees Celsius during the day in Scotland, with nighttime values potentially reaching -4 degrees Celsius in cities like Aberdeen, Glasgow, and Dundee. In northeastern England, cities like Newcastle, Blackpool, and Manchester could see temperatures around 3 degrees below zero during the coldest hours. The precipitation associated with this Arctic air mass would arrive as snow in higher elevations and, depending on the exact path of the system, possibly in some lower-lying areas of northern England as well. Scotland would be the most severely affected region. Aberdeen, the granite city on the northeastern Scottish coast, is particularly exposed to systems arriving from the North Sea and from the north. Glasgow, located in the west, could receive snowfall of up to 4 inches, according to the most pessimistic models. Dundee, on the Tay estuary, and Edinburgh, the Scottish capital, also appear on risk maps. In northern England, Newcastle upon Tyne, with its historic infrastructure along the River Tyne, is a city that experiences noticeably harsher conditions than other English cities at similar latitudes whenever air masses arrive from the northeast. Blackpool and Manchester, further west and south respectively, could be impacted if the cold air mass manages to penetrate more deeply inland. Leeds and Sheffield, situated in the corridor between the Pennines and the Central Plains, are areas where snow has historically accumulated relatively quickly when winds come from the north. However, this is where the analysis becomes more nuanced and more honest. The UK Met Office, the National Meteorological Agency, and the most reliable source of forecast for the country, has published a review of specific weather headlines to contrast with the more dramatic claims circulating in media and on social networks. According to the Met Office, while the possibility of colder conditions toward the end of April exists, with some potential for wintry showers in the north and east of the country and the possibility of more widespread overnight frost, the scenario of a massive snow bomb simultaneously hitting 12 cities is not strongly supported by current data. Weather models, the Met Office explains, always produce a range of possible scenarios. Some of these scenarios include extreme conditions, but that doesn't mean they are the most likely. The difference between a possible scenario and a probable scenario is precisely the difference between a responsible headline and one that generates unnecessary panic. What the Met Office does confirm is that the second half of April shows signals of a colder than normal period, with high pressure positioned to the north or northwest of the UK and possible polar air intrusions at some point during that stretch. The agency also confirms that there is some scenario in which northerly winds could bring cold showers and snowfall to higher ground, with the possibility of snow settling in some parts of northern and eastern England. But it immediately clarifies that any cold spell is likely to be short-lived before somewhat milder conditions re-establish themselves. In other words, they don't deny the possibility of an unusual cold. They put it in context. And that context is exactly what snow bomb headlines tend to strip away in favor of urgency and emotional impact. What is real and important, however, is the effect this type of weather event has on public health and infrastructure. The UK Health Security Agency regularly issues cold weather alerts alongside forecasts of low temperatures, and for good reason. Temperatures below zero for extended periods significantly increase the risk of heart attacks, strokes, and respiratory infections, particularly among people over 65 and those with pre-existing health conditions. When Arctic air masses arrive, even without spectacular snowfall, overnight frost turns sidewalks and roads into extremely dangerous surfaces. Road accidents increase. Heating systems in older homes are put to the test, and the most vulnerable people, elderly individuals living alone, people experiencing homelessness, families in energy poverty, pay the highest price for every degree the thermometer drops. In terms of infrastructure, cities in northern England and Scotland face different exposures than those in the south. 4 inches of snow in Aberdeen has different consequences than the same snowfall in London, not only because of how frequently it occurs, and therefore the level of local infrastructure preparedness, but also because of topography, population density, and transportation systems. In Scotland, Transport Scotland and local councils maintain contingency plans for winter conditions, even during spring, with salt reserves and snowplows on standby. In northern English cities, preparedness also exists, but response capacity differs from areas with a longer history of severe snowfall. For UK residents, the practical advice from both the Met Office and local authorities is consistent regardless of whether the storm turns out to be a massive snow bomb or simply a colder than usual stretch. Check Met Office alerts regularly, as warnings are updated frequently as confidence in the models increases. Make sure your vehicles have adequate antifreeze and that tire pressure is correct. Ensure there's enough heating fuel at home. Stay in touch with vulnerable neighbors and family members. And avoid non-essential travel during the coldest hours if temperatures drop significantly below zero. In the northernmost parts of the country, the Scottish Ambulance Service and its regional equivalents have repeatedly asked the public to reduce non-urgent calls during periods of extreme cold in order to maintain response capacity for real emergencies. The broader debate raised by this type of weather event, real or amplified, is that of climate change and the cold paradox on a warming planet. Popular intuition says that global warming should mean less cold and less snow. The scientific reality is more complicated. Accelerated Arctic warming is weakening the polar vortex in ways that can actually generate more frequent extreme cold spells at mid-latitudes, including the British Isles, while summers become progressively warmer and annual averages continue to rise. It's a paradox that climate scientists explain clearly, but that feels counterintuitive to the general public. A warmer world on average can produce more unpredictable winters and springs, with more pronounced swings between warm and cold extremes. The UK should stay alert in the coming weeks. The Met Office has acknowledged that colder, more wintry conditions are possible toward the end of April. The X-Charts model suggests that cities like Aberdeen, Glasgow, Dundee, Newcastle, Manchester, and others in the north could see below freezing temperatures and possibly snow. The more dramatic snow bomb described in some headlines may not materialize exactly as advertised, but the advice remains the same, regardless of the final magnitude. Prepare, follow official alerts, protect the most vulnerable, and never underestimate the ability of North Atlantic weather to surprise, even in the middle of spring.